This is lesson 2 from your workbook on page 563. And what we are doing in this lesson is we are continuing with the equation y is equal to mx plus b. And remember from lesson 1, m is the slope of your line, and slope is equal to rise over run, and b is equal to the y-intercept of your line. So with this lesson, we're going to be continuing on using the equation y is equal to mx plus b. However, what a lot of it's going to be is with slope, we're not going to be using rise over run. We're going to be using the formula for slope. And remember that the formula for slope was if you have two points or two coordinates, it was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the other way that we could write slope, again, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And as long as we have two coordinates, we could do that. Okay, number 1 says, write the equation of a line passing through this point here. So the point that they have given me, so that's my x value and that's my y value. And remember that the equation of a line, so what's the equation of a line? Y is equal to mx plus b. And it has, so they want the equation of a line written in this form, y is equal to mx plus b, and it has this slope here. So I know that slope is, the variable for slope is m, and they want m to be 5 over 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to put in 5 over 2. So y is equal to 5 over 2 x plus b. Now, the only thing I'm missing in order to get the equation of my line is my b value, right? And in order to get the b value, that is my y-intercept. And there's two different ways that you could do this. So the first way that I want to show you is if I just plot this point, if that's my y-axis and this is my x-axis, x is 0 and y is 2, that would be right here. So what I'm hoping you see is that this point here is actually the y-intercept, right? When x is 0, 2 is going to be my b value. So my b value is going to be 2. My y-intercept is going to be 2. But let's say that you didn't realize that and you just said, okay, well, how else could I do this with just that point? So here's how you could do that. We know that that's x and that's y. What you could do is if I need to solve b, but I know that x is 0 and y is 2, let's rewrite this equation plugging in y is 2 times 5 over 2, and what was our x value? Our x value is 0. If they give you a point, you could plug that into x and y, and then that's going to be plus b. From here, I have 2 is equal to, anything times 0 is 0, plus b, b is equal to 2. So the equation of my line is y is equal to 5 over 2x plus my y-intercept, and my y-intercept I just got to be 2. Okay, let's go to class example number 2. Each line on the grid passes through points with integer coordinates. In each case, state the slope and y-intercept of the line, determine the equation of the line. Okay. So the equation of the line is y is equal to mx plus b. The first thing I'm going to figure out is, do I know what the y-intercept is? So this is line 1, right? So this green line here is line 1. Where does this line cut the y-axis? And it cuts it right there. So I actually know what my b value is. My b value is the y-intercept, which is -4. So now I could take out that b value, and I could put in -4. What I'm missing is the slope. So what I now need to do is I need to go along this green line and I need to find another nice coordinate where it goes through like a crosshairs. So any of these ones. So from my y-intercept, let's figure out what the slope is. What's the rise and what's the run? So my rise is 1 and my run is 3. From here, rise 1 and run 1, 2, 3. From here, fall 1 and go to the left 1, 2, 3. So my slope is rise of 1 and a run of 3. So the equation for line 1, so I'm going to put y1 because that's for line 1, is mx plus b 1 over 3x minus 4. That is the equation of my green line. If I erase it, let's do line 2, and I'll color this one blue. So here's line 2. Y is equal to mx plus b. Pause the video, see if you could get what that y-intercept would be. Where does that line, so if it's this line here, where does this guy cut the y-axis? And it's right there. Then, for your slope, see if you can get some other points on this line. So I'm just going to erase this so I could see it nicely. So from here, there's a nice point, here's a nice point, here's a nice point. So from the y-intercept, I would go down 1, 2, 3, and to the right 2. So down 3 and to the right 2. Down 1, 2, 3, and to the right 2. And I get back on my line. Going in the opposite direction, the opposite of down 3 is up 3, and the opposite of the right 2 is the left 2. So that's my slope. Writing that into an equation, y2 is equal to negative, it should be 3, negative 3 over 2x plus 2. And that would be the equation of your line. Okay, for number 3, I'm going to do A and B with you. This will actually be our last class example. So I'm going to do A and B with you. And then I'm going to get you to add C. You won't be able to do all of the homework questions unless, let me see if I can move this down a bit. Okay, so let's do A and B together, and then we'll do C, and that will be it for this lesson. So question number 1 says A, determine the equation of the following lines. So the first thing I'm going to write is I'm going to write, well, what is the equation of a line? Because I need to know that, right? So the equation of a line is y is equal to mx plus b. From here, they want to know the equation of a line that's parallel to this line here. So when they talk about parallel, what they are talking about is the slope. I need to find out what the slope is. And they want the slope of my new equation to be parallel to this. So from the last unit, what does parallel mean? Parallel means it has the same slope. So I have to look at this line here, and I got to say to myself, what's the slope of this line? So the slope of this line is 1/3. If they want me to come up with a new equation parallel to this line, my new slope is going to be 1/3 as well. right? Because they want it parallel to that. So it would be 1/3. So that's going to be the equation of my new line, right? So in this b value, they want the slope to be 1/3. So y is equal to 1/3x plus b. Now I just need to get that b value, and that's my y-intercept. So what do they want the y-intercept to be? Well, it says, and they want it to have the same y-intercept as this. So what was the y-intercept for this equation? Well, you should say to yourself, well, the y-intercept is the b value. B is equal to -7. If they want it to have the same y-intercept as this equation, they want the new y-intercept to be -7. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to erase that b, and they want the y-intercept to be -7. Okay? To see if you sort of understood this, take a minute and let's skip down to C. Okay, so let's skip down to C. And I want you to write this somewhere in your workbook and then pause it when you've written it. Okay, let's do this question together. Determine the equation of a line. So I know that the equation of a line is in the form of y is equal to mx plus b, right? That's what I know. They want the equation of my new line to have the same y-intercept as this equation here. So what you have to do, y-intercept, what am I looking at? Do I care about that value or that value? Which one do you think the y-intercept is? The y-intercept is your b value, which is this guy here. So they want an equation of a line with the same y-intercept as whatever y-intercept this equation has. This equation has a y-intercept of -4. Therefore, my new equation is going to be mx minus 4. The y-intercept of my new equation is going to be the same as this guy, -4. Then the only thing I'm missing is my slope, right? What's my m value? Okay, they wanted my m value to be perpendicular to this. How do we do this? Perpendicular to this. Okay, when they talk about perpendicular, they're talking about slope, right? So what's the slope of this equation? The slope of this equation is 4/5. What would perpendicular to 4/5 be? So you have to think about the last unit, and in order to get perpendicular to 4/5, what we do is we take the negative inverse. So the inverse of 4/5 is 5/4. If this is positive, this guy has to be negative. So they want my new slope to be perpendicular to this. If this slope is 4/5, perpendicular is -5/4. The equation of my new line is -5/4x minus 4. So it has the same y-intercept as this equation, and it's perpendicular to this equation. That would be the answer. Okay, let's do B. The equation of a line passing through this point and perpendicular to these points. Okay, so let's start with perpendicular. Perpendicular is talking, what's parallel perpendicular? They're talking about slope, right? I need to figure out what the slope is. Oh, they've given me 2 points. If I have 2 points, I could call this x1, y1, and this x2, y2, right? Once I have 2 points, I could figure out the slope. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the slope is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. 0 minus -6, 2 negatives make a positive. 0 plus 6 is 6. -5 minus 2 is -7. The slope is negative 6 over 7. Okay, so I just, 6 over negative 7, that's the exact same thing as negative 6 over 7. You type either of those into your calculator, you're going to get the exact same answer. Now, they want the equation of a line. So let's write the equation of a line. Y is equal to mx plus b. And they want the slope to be perpendicular to this guy. So if, or sorry, perpendicular to this, it's the same thing, right? If the slope is negative 6 over 7, what's perpendicular to that? So perpendicular, or the inverse of negative 6 over 7 is 7 over negative 6. And if this is negative, perpendicular, the second one has to be positive. Remember with perpendicular, we always have one slope that's negative and one's positive. So if they give you a negative slope, then this has to be positive. So now I have my slope, right? My slope is 7 over 6. So y is equal to 7 over 6 x plus b. The only thing I'm missing is that y-intercept. That's the only thing I'm missing. So you guys, if you go here, they give us a point, 0, 9. What is 0, 9? X is 0, y is 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I hope you see that 0, 9, what they've given you is your y-intercept. My y-intercept, or my b value, is 9. So then I go over here and I'm going to erase this and I'm going to put in plus 9. The equation of this line has a y-intercept of 9, which is that guy there, and its slope is perpendicular to this. The slope of this is negative 6 over 7, so my new slope is 7 over 6. Those are the 3 questions, or the only class examples that we're going to do from this lesson. What I want you to do for homework is the following. So it's not going to be much. For question number 1, I want you to circle this. I want you to do question number 1, excluding what I've crossed out. So don't do D and don't do J, right? So for example, what they want you to do is write the equation of a line. If they want it parallel to this, parallel is referring to slope. So the slope is 1 over 10. Parallel means equal. So my new slope is 1 over 10. My b value is the y-intercept. And if it passes through this point here, remember, what point is that? 0, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 would be right here. That is your y-intercept. So that's how I want you to do these questions. Okay. For example, if I was to do E, so let's do E with you, perpendicular to this. So E, perpendicular to this. The slope is negative 2 over 3. We first have to figure out what's perpendicular to negative 2 over 3. So it's the negative inverse. That would be 3 over negative 2. If this is negative, perpendicular, it's always the opposite. One has to be negative, one has to be positive. So I would erase this, and my new slope is 3 over 2. They want it to be a y-intercept of negative 9. My equation, mx, would be 3 over 2x minus 9. Okay, so I want you to do this question. I want you to do question number 2. So remember, for question number 2, if I'm going to do line 1, mx plus b, always start, so this is your line 1, always start with your y-intercept. So that would have a y-intercept of -8, mx minus 8. And then from there, you have to follow your slope. And my slope would be rise of 1, run of 1, 2, run of 4. And you will do line 2, and you will do line 3. Okay? And then from there, I want you to do number 4. So for number 4, here's your 2 points. Calculate the slope of those 2 points. Right? So get the slope of those 2 points. Once you have the slope, they want your new equation to be parallel. So parallel means identical slope. And they want it passing through this point. That's your b value. Last question you would do is going to be very similar. Number 5, you're given 2 points. Calculate the slope. So figure out what that slope is. Then your new equation, it says they want it perpendicular. So what your new equation is going to be, it's going to be the reciprocal or the inverse. So whatever your fraction is, flip it. If this is negative, your new slope is positive. If this is positive, your new slope is negative. And there is your y-intercept. And that concludes lesson 2.